Mowing is the most fundamental practice for maintaining turfgrass in any situation, and roadsides are no different. In this module, we will discuss the various physiological effects that mowing can have on a turfgrass community. You will also learn about proper mowing procedures, including frequency, height of cut, and mowing equipment. Let's begin with the principles of mowing turfgrasses. Mowing can have many benefits to turfgrass that is being maintained on roadsides. However, contrary to popular belief, grass actually grows in spite of what we do. From a purely physiological standpoint, mowing can be quite detrimental to turfgrass, especially when proper mowing practices are ignored. First, let's discuss the benefits of mowing. In a roadside setting, using proper mowing practices will improve the overall appearance or aesthetics of the turf planted in these environments. This is a benefit to the community as a whole. Additionally, mowed roadside vegetation will improve sightlines for people utilizing roads, including traffic and pedestrians. Regarding the second point, turf grasses will generally respond to proper mowing by improving density through producing new tillers. And finally, weed reduction is often seen as a large benefit in mowed turfgrass. Ultimately, mowing is the best weed management tool because in turf, only those species that can tolerate mowing will be able to invade. Mowing narrows down the number of weeds that are able to survive in a turf setting. Regarding the negative aspects of mowing as it relates to grass plant responses, the main point is to understand that mowing is a stress, and turf grasses have simply adapted over time to continuous defoliation. The initial shock to grass plants from this mowing stress often results in a temporary reduction in root growth and wounding of leaf tissue. Mower traffic, mainly from the tires of heavy-weighted equipment, can also be a concern, particularly with the salt-tolerant fine fescue species. Weeds and disease are able to invade more easily when grass plants are damaged because the canopy is opened. And finally, mowing grasses can potentially result in a loss of habitat for wildlife and pollinators. With all of these potential negative aspects of mowing, proper mowing strategies become critical to the long-term maintenance of roadside turf grasses. As we work through this module and discuss the various aspects of mowing, it's important to keep in mind that of all the cultural practices used to maintain turf, mowing has the largest impact on plant growth, plant physiology, and tolerance to both biotic and abiotic stresses. The first, and possibly most important principle of mowing, is the 1/3 rule. The 1/3 rule states that you should not mow off any more than 1/3 of your grass plant height at any one mowing. By following the 1/3 rule when you mow, you will essentially be removing no more than 33 to 40% of the vegetation at one time. Removing more than this might result in significant stress, scalping, which we will discuss later, slow recovery of the stand, and possibly long-term damage. It is also important to note that higher mowing heights will require less frequent mowing, and that concept is explained in greater detail on the next slide. For lower maintenance roadsides that receive infrequent mowing, following the 1/3 rule may not be practical in all cases. However, following this rule should always be considered when developing a mowing program. Here are some examples of various mowing heights and recommendations of how much the turf grass should be allowed to grow between mowings. As this mowing guide shows, higher mowing heights require less frequent mowing because grass can be allowed to grow more between each mowing. For example, if your desired height of cut is 2 inches, then you should be mowing the turf by the time it reaches 3 inches tall, which would allow only for 1 inch of growth between mowings. Likewise, if your desired height is 3.5 inches, then you should be mowing when the turf grows to 5.25 inches. At this 3.5 inch height of cut, 1 3/4 inch of growth is allowed between mowings, reducing mowing frequency by almost 1/2. Note that a plant's growth rate is dependent on temperature, time of year, water, and soil fertility. For that reason, it is better to mow when needed by following the mowing guide rather than on a fixed schedule like mowing every 2 weeks. Mowing will need to be more frequent in the spring and fall and less frequent in the summer months. Scalping is a term used to describe the excessive removal of green shoots from a turf stand at any one mowing. Scalping turf grass results in a stubbly brown appearance due to exposed stems, stolons, and dead lower leaves. There are several conditions that result in scalped turf. First, mowing too short or too infrequently. Second, excessive buildup of thatch and puffiness in the turf. And lastly, uneven turf due to poor soil grading at establishment. Ultimately, higher heights of cut will reduce turf damage due to scalping. Mowing frequency will also have a large influence. From the pictures shown on this slide, there may be little to no turf damage when a turf is mowed down from 4 to 2.5 inches, especially if 2.5 inches is the regular mowing height of the stand. In the bottom example, when over 60% of the leaf tissue is removed by mowing a 6-inch turf down to 2 inches, this can result in a complete removal of leaf tissue responsible for photosynthesis and more weed growth due to sunlight reaching the soil surface. Keep in mind that the 2.5-inch mowing height is simply used for example purposes. The mowing frequency requirement will be reduced, and the turf stand will be much healthier with mowing heights above 3 inches. In this photo, there is significant scalping due to an uneven turf surface. This scalping can be minimized by raising the mowing height and mowing more frequently. However, this is a particular issue related to poor grading of the surface prior to turf establishment. Great care must be taken during the grading period to reduce long-term scalping issues related to uneven surfaces. Also in this photo, damage along the road edge is most likely related to de-icing salts applied during the winter months. On the far right of the photo, there is excessive clipping buildup on the turf due to infrequent mowing, and this should be avoided as to not smother the turf. If excessive clipping buildup does occur following a mowing practice, it should be dispersed by rakes, blowers, or other equipment. The next few slides discuss the importance of mowing height. First and foremost, mowing height is often considered the most significant decision in managing turf. This is because the mowing height will influence the community makeup, for example, what species are surviving in this environment, and the amount of resources needed for maintenance. Generally speaking, from a management perspective, larger plants are more robust and resistant to environmental stress and biotic stress such as insects and diseases, and they are also more tolerant to wear and traffic. Turfgrass managers often consider root growth as a reflection of the height of vegetation on the surface, and this principle is important to understand. Generally speaking, turfgrasses maintained at lower heights of cut will have limited root systems and will require greater inputs of fertilizer, water, and weed control to maintain a healthy stand. This is especially important in roadside settings that receive fewer inputs. Therefore, as mowing height decreases, maintenance and inputs go up. Increasing mowing heights whenever possible will result in a more robust root system, which is able to gather nutrients and water from a larger reservoir in the soil. In this case, turfgrass stress will be minimized, especially during the heat of the summer, and weed pressures will decrease. The table shown outlines the ranges of turfgrass mowing heights depending on the species being maintained. Please take a moment to review. In general, utilizing the highest height range will result in the best performance and least amount of stress to the roadside turf stand. Additionally, as previously discussed, maintaining roadsides at the highest recommended height of cut will reduce the frequency of mowing required. During spring and fall cool weather periods, when the growth of cool season grasses is optimum, the allowable mowing height ranges can be lowered slightly, and 3 to 3.5 inches is a good general height of cut for most cool season turf species. During summer heat, a slight increase in mowing height will provide for a healthier turf stand, less stress, and a reduced mowing frequency. Of particular importance at this time, salt-tolerant fine fescue species can become quite damaged from mowing practices during the summer. To maintain high-quality fine fescues throughout the summer months, be sure to raise mowing heights and avoid mowing on hot days, especially during the hottest part of the day. Note that some roadside mowing height guidelines in your area may indicate a minimum height of 4 inches. However, this is impractical for urban roadside turf grasses. Grasses differ in their tolerance to mowing. As previously mentioned, fine fescues should be mowed infrequently in the summer months because they grow much slower at this time, and their tolerance to mowing on hot days is a concern. As a general rule of thumb, do not mow stands dominated by fine fescues on days that reach 85 degrees or higher. Base your mowing practices at this time on turfgrass species growth, and fine fescue growth during the summer months will be minimal. This picture shows damage from mowing and traffic to fine fescues in the heat of the summer. At this time, both air temperatures and soil temperatures can be elevated, and mowing stress will impact both shoots and roots. Root and crown stress from traffic during heat will be the most damaging. Turfgrass recovery from poor mowing practices such as this should not be expected until favorable growing weather resumes, if at all. Dr. Robert Shearman from the University of Nebraska is quite possibly the foremost researcher on mowing influences to turfgrass. In one of his studies, Dr. Shearman found that raising the mowing height of a Kentucky bluegrass stand during high summer stress periods can have a profound influence on the soil temperatures at the 1-inch level. In this study, Kentucky bluegrass maintained at 3/4 inch demonstrated soil temperatures of 93 degrees at 1 inch below the surface, and only 5 degrees cooler than the ambient air temperatures. Increasing this mowing height to 1.5 inches, which is still significantly shorter than the recommended height for Kentucky bluegrass on roadsides, resulted in a root zone that was 10 degrees cooler at the 1-inch level. From this research, we know that healthier turfgrass can be maintained at higher heights of cuts, which provides a greater buffer from temperature extremes that occur throughout the day. This ends part 1